Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about Koberger, which Koberger seems to be kind of boring compared to all the other things that are going on. I don't know if you've been watching Sarah Boone. I call her Suitcase Susie. She's gone through 8 public defenders, and I guess a couple of them it wasn't her fault, but because of scheduling, they had to leave her case. But she is very difficult to get along with, and she's now asking for a 9th public defender, and she's quite entertaining, albeit frustrating, I'm sure, for the judge. She writes letters at the last hearing that I saw her at, which I think was yesterday. She had a 58-page letter for the judge, and he very graciously took the letter from her and told her he would read it and do what he can. And he just seems to be very patient with her, way more patient than I would be, that's for sure. And the other one is Karen Reed, the Karen Reed trial. And she's a woman from Boston that her boyfriend worked for the Boston Police Department, and he was left in the snowbank overnight and froze to death. And she said from the very beginning that those cops were all corrupt, crooked cops, and that they were going to frame her for his death. And it's after they got Trooper Proctor up on the stand, and this man is so, I can't even think of words vile enough to describe his behavior. Within hours of having her case, he was texting he had a text change with a group of his friends talking about her body, called her retarded. I hate to say that word. He called her, use the C word, the one that all women love. Made fun of her attorney, said he hated that man. Just, and then the medical examiner wasn't coming up with the manner of death as homicide, and his friends were kind of like jibing him because he couldn't get the ME to give him the right outcome. So I think she was right from the very beginning that they were going to frame her. And I think Trooper Proctor kind of put a fork in that deal, and I think it's done. But that trial's winding up and it's going to be done soon. So, but that brings us back to Koberger. And before I get started saying too much more, I just want you guys to know I know nothing. I know nothing more than anyone else. Everything I say in this video is my opinion only. And if you're curious about something, I really encourage you to do your own research and look up, because everything is out there. It's on the internet. Even though there's somewhat of a gag order in this case, you can find these things. And the thing that it seems like every hearing that we've had that I've been able to watch, Ann Taylor has stood up and said, at the last one I saw, she stood up, put her hand on Brian's shoulder, and said, "Your Honor, Brian is innocent." And which he is. He's presumed innocence. And I give him that. I have no problem with that. And she said that the state is not handing over the discovery that they need in order for her to do her job to represent him. And that's what's causing all these delays. We don't even have a trial date. It won't be long, it'll be 2 years. since that happened, and there's no trial date even set. And so I got curious about what it was exactly they were asking for in the defendant's discovery for, or defendant's motion for discovery. And I'll list all that down below. There were 18 items that they asked for. And I'm not going to go through all 18 items here, but I will touch on a couple of them. And a little bit of background on it before, so it makes more sense for you guys. One of the things, when he was arrested on December 30th, 2022, in the early morning hours, like between 3 and 4 in the morning. And he had on a button-down shirt, he was wearing underpants, and he had on purple surgical type gloves. And he was in his house is kind of a split level where you walk in the door and you go upstairs or downstairs. He was in the downstairs part. He was awake. The rest of his family was asleep. And he was cutting up garbage. And he had these different Ziploc bags. And he was cutting it up and then putting it in these different bags. And no, he wasn't recycling. He was just separating out his cut up garbage. And so they arrested him. He went to the Pennsylvania, I imagine the county sheriffs, and had him in the lockup there. And he said there that he was not going back to Idaho. He was provided a court-appointed attorney. And, you know, all of the bailiffs and everybody that was involved with this from Pennsylvania were just like a bunch of little chatty Cathys, and they were telling, that's where all this information has come from. They were talking to every and any reporter that would stick a microphone in front of their face. And even the attorney that was his court-appointed attorney was talking to reporters and saying that he did not want to go back to Idaho. But what he did want was he wanted to see the probable cause affidavit. Well, in Idaho, it's the Idaho code that the PCA is not released, it's not unsealed until the person is actually in Idaho. And as soon as he found that out, he couldn't get out of Pennsylvania fast enough. And so right away they had a hearing. He didn't fight extradition. And he was taken to a plane to fly back to Idaho. And I'm assuming it was with the U.S. Marshals, because I think they're the ones that are in charge of transporting people who are in custody. And somebody said it's just probably a couple of hour flight. But no, it's coming into this area is an all-day ordeal, whether you're flying private or commercial, especially commercial, but even private, you have to make at least a couple, maybe 3 stops for fuel. And I assume that they probably from Pennsylvania, I don't know, but I think when you fly commercial, you always have a layover in Salt Lake City, and then you go to Boise, and then from Boise, you either go to Lewiston, which is where I live, or Pullman. And I think he flew into Pullman and then drove to Moscow. But as soon as he got to the LATAR, and while he was on that flight, he just talked the whole time. The marshals that were on board with him said he did not shut up. And at one point, he was on back of the plane by himself, talking to himself, and just talking to all the agents and asking them all kinds of questions and everything. And so that, I just wanted to get that out there. I'm just an old lady with an iPad. And again, these are just my opinions, and you can do your own research. But I wanted to give you a little bit of that backdrop because the number one item that was asked for in the defendant's motion for discovery was any and all written or recorded conversations, statements made by Brian Koberger before and after he was arrested. And the number two item that he asked for was the exact same thing, but he said it was for a co-defendant, which I don't know what that's about. And that is one thing I'm going to do my own research on and try to figure out. But I think that was because maybe his adrenaline was running or something, and really didn't know what all he had said to the marshals, and he wanted to get a clear picture of what he had said to the marshals. I just have a few notes here I'm looking at. I want to make sure I cover everything. I made this, I am seriously just an old lady with an iPad. I don't know how to do any editing or anything, so I made this video before, and I forgot to leave out the whole disclaimer, like editor's note. Everything I say is alleged, and it's just my opinion. Again, I'll say that. But that was one thing. Okay, so the 1 and 2 items, I thought that was interesting. And then there was another thing that he had in that motion for discovery, is he wants all of the digital media and any digital statements that were made before and after his arrest. And what he's talking about there is social media. And I don't know how he expects the prosecutor or the state to be able to provide that to him. At one point, the sheriff of Latah County, if you remember when this happened, it was it was a big story. It was a big deal. And the sheriff said that they had 70,000 tips that had been emailed to him, had come in on the tip line. And there were people lived in North Carolina and drove all the way out here. And this is in November and December. And I don't know, I guess they thought they were going to come and solve this mystery. And I don't know how long they were up there, but obviously they didn't do much to help with the solving of the mystery. But yeah, that's one of his requests, is for all of the digital and social media before and after. And like I said, I'll list them all down below. But another one of them, he wants all subpoenas that were prepared and served, and all subpoenas that were prepared. And I don't know, if a subpoena is prepared but not served, is it really a subpoena? So I don't know. That's another one that I don't know that the state could actually provide that. And I think it's something that allows Ann Taylor to stand up in court and say, Your Honor, the state is not giving us all the discovery that we've asked for, and we can't move forward. And I just think from the very beginning, if Koberger had his way, if he could have looked at that probable cause affidavit back in Pennsylvania, he'd probably still be in Pennsylvania trying to fight the extradition. I think that's the only reason he came back to Idaho, was so he could see the PCA. Um, one of the a couple of people that I've talked to from the Latah County Jail, they've said that Koberger, his cell is directly below the courtroom when they have their hearings, because the courthouse is very small, and he spends most all of his time online, and they said that he's just obsessed with reading articles and watching videos, and he's just obsessed with what people are saying about him. And he'll probably use some of that coming into his trial, which that's, that's another thing. Again, they hired that team to do the surveys, and they called 400 people to ask them those questions. And I have a hard time believing that they got 400 people on the phone. Latah County is very small. I think the total population is like less than 6,000. I don't know for sure, but it's very small. And I don't know about you, but if I don't know who's calling, I don't answer my phone. And I just think it's suspect that they actually got 400 people on the line to talk to do this survey. But Ann Taylor said in that hearing that she didn't know the questions because she knows what the results of the survey were going to be. And that rubbed me the wrong way. That's kind of when I started disliking her. And I really don't like the prosecutor at all. To me, I think if you're a prosecutor, you should work really hard on being likable, don't you think? And even being a defense attorney, that should be up there in your top priorities, to be a likable. You want to be likable to the jury and to the public. And I don't know, this prosecutor, I do not like him. I wish he would take a razor to that beard. I don't like people with, I don't mind a little bit of a beard, but, and a dark beard, but those like longer white beards is just, to me, it's just like they're too lazy to take care of themselves. I don't know. I just don't. To me, he's not likable. But Ann Taylor's not likable to me either. I just want to really quick. I don't want this to be a long video. I want to touch on a couple of rumors on the change of venue. That is completely to the discretion of the judge. If he decides that yes, we needed venue change, then it goes to the Idaho Supreme Court jurists, and one of them will pick which county it will go to. And then everybody goes there. The judge packs up and goes to that county. The prosecutor packs up and goes there. And of course, the defense. I know I've had a lot of comments that people don't like the judge, they don't like the prosecutor, and that the venue should be moved because of that, so that he could get a new judge and a new prosecutor. But he's stuck with this judge and prosecutor. I don't think Ann Taylor's going to be the one to actually argue his case when it comes time for trial, because they'll get a court date set, they'll be ready for trial, and Koberger will ask for a new attorney. Mark my words. I think Koberger's driving this whole thing. What do you think? I would really like to know if you think that, or if you think it's Ann Taylor. I know she's really smart, and she's been a very successful public defender, and somebody's got to do it, and I want him to have the best. I really do. I'm very serious about that. I want him to have a really fair trial, and I just want him to have the best of everything. I know Idaho, there's a real shortage of death qualified public defenders, and that's what we need here. But once he gets one death qualified public defender, and then he gets another public defender, and he also gets a mitigation specialist. So when you see Ann Taylor, of course, with her long blonde hair, and then there's another man that is there, and he's usually whispering in Koberger's ear, and then there's a woman that's kind of sitting at the end of the table, and I think that that's his mitigation specialist. I'm not sure, but I think that's who she is. And then there's a woman that is the second chair for the prosecutor, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, but this is the prosecutor's last case. He's getting ready to retire. And let's hope he gets a haircut, and maybe if he doesn't shave that beard, maybe trim it a little bit. I don't know if that would make him any more likable, but I don't know. So we covered and I still think Koberger is making a huge mistake by asking for a change of venue, because none of the victims are from here. The people that live in Latah County are smart, educated people. They have connected brain cells. Yes, they may have heard of Brian Koberger, but they can, I have no doubt that they could set aside whatever they think and listen to the evidence and be able to put two and two together and come up with four. You know what I mean? And Brian Koberger wants to go to a county where nobody's heard of him, and I don't know where that would be. Do you know where that would be? I think pretty much everybody's heard about him in Idaho, in Washington, in Oregon, like in the whole country, maybe even globally. I don't know. I think Ann Taylor's kind of puffing Koberger up a little bit about how massive this is. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the FBI presence. Yes, there is an FBI office here in Lewiston, Idaho, and I did talk to somebody that knows. I didn't talk to an agent or anybody in the office, but somebody that does know, and they said that those guys, the FBI guys that are here, and they've been here for years, they've got their hands full with the reservation. We're surrounded by Indian reservations. The only law enforcement jurisdiction is through the FBI. There's tribal police, but I don't even know if the tribal police have the right to arrest, say if a Native American Indian that belongs to the tribe commits a crime. I think the only person that can actually arrest them is an FBI agent, and I was told that they have their hands full out there. And then there is a task force. It's called the Quad Cities Task Force. It's for Pullman and Moscow and Lewiston and Clarkston. and it's been in existence for a very long time. My son is 39. I don't know how that can be because I'm barely 50, so I know that anyway, when my kids were little, I remember going to different events at the park. They'd have bicycle races and potato sack races, and they had bicycle parade, not races, but they had all these functions, and it was for the Quad Cities Task Force. And I think that they deal just only with drugs and the drugs that come in and out of here. And I don't believe there's any FBI on that task force. I might be wrong, but I think it's mostly ATF and DEA, and I don't know, and they're in two separate offices. So there is a task force, but it has nothing to do with Koberger, and it has been around for years. A lot more years than I would like to think. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for you right now. I do have a really good video. You know, I showed you that Kate's coffee stand in the Port of Clarkston where Koberger spent 24 minutes the Sunday after these incidents. And I went down to the river and filmed. And for some reason, YouTube has flagged it. So I'm trying to work out with YouTube on how I can get that up and running. But it's a good video. You'll like it. And I'm headed to Moscow in the morning. I'm going to go have coffee with a bunch of old farts, bunch of retired farmers. I have scoped out where they go for their morning coffee, and I'm going to just talk to them and see what they think's going on. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see what they have to say. Anyway, you guys, thanks you so much for watching, and please subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment, ask me a question. If there's anything you want me to take a picture of for you or whatever, I'm happy to do that. Any other rumors, I'm happy to track them down, but it would really make me happy if you would subscribe and hit that like button. Also, it makes YouTube happy. Their algorithm likes that. But I'd like to get my channel back up to where it was before I had to stop about 8 years ago, I think. 8 years ago, 4 years ago. I'll have to look. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and all that good stuff, and leave me comments and any questions. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.